when it seems the magic slipped away, we find it all again on Christmas Day. Believe in what your heart is saying, hear the melody that's playing. There's no time to waste, there's so much to celebrate. Believe in what you feel inside and give your dreams the wings to fly. You have everything you need if you just believe.
Ah, Christmas, one of the most wonderful times of the year. There are so many memories that I have of my younger years celebrating Christmas, one of which I still do to this day as an adult. One of those celebrations that I still do is unwrapping gifts with my family. However, there is another celebration that I will continue to do even when I live to be 99 years old. That celebration that I will still be doing is watching Christmas specials and movies on TV. From Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, to Frosty the Snowman, to How the Grinch Stole Christmas, both the original and Jim Carrey version, to Santa Claus is Coming to Town, to the Polar Express, to A Charlie Brown Christmas, all of these hold a very special place in my heart. But what about one of the Thomas the Tank Engine Christmas episodes? Don't worry. There is one Thomas the Tank Engine Christmas episode that holds a special place in my heart. I remember watching this episode when my favorite childhood show, Shining Time Station, did their Christmas special, 'Tis a Gift. This episode that I am talking about is Thomas's Christmas Party. Did you know that in this episode, a flashback was shown when Thomas is talking to the other engines about Mrs. Kindly saving him from a landslide? Although this was never seen as an episode, this part was actually from one of Reverend Wilbert Awdry's stories called Mrs. Kindly's Christmas that Britt Allcroft and David Mitten included in their own story that they wrote for the show, which we know as Thomas's Christmas Party. According to the Thomas the Tank Engine fandom wiki page, Mrs. Kindly is an old lady who lives in a cottage near the line. Although she waves to Thomas every day as he passes, she falls ill and no longer has the energy to wave. One rainy December morning, Thomas makes his way up to Farquhar when a dressing gown waving from Mrs. Kindly's window stops him. While the driver and a doctor go to see what the matter is, the fireman discovers that the gown was used to warn them about a landslide. The next day, Thomas, Toby, Henrietta, Annie, Clarabel, and the Fat Controller go to the cottage to thank her. The Fat Controller offers her tickets to Bournemouth, where she recovers from her illness. Although Britt Allcroft and Dave Mitten wrote this episode, Reverend Wilbert Awdry would go and adapt their story into a book of the same name nearly 2 months before airing. This was done by the request of Britt Allcroft and David Mitten, and this was Reverend Wilbert Awdry's first book since his retirement in 1972. As a little tidbit to all of you watching this, Thomas's Christmas Party first aired in the United Kingdom on December 25th, 1984, which means that this Christmas will mark 35 years since its first airing on TV. So now, to celebrate 35 years, sit back, relax, have some delicious hot chocolate, and listen to this redub of Thomas's Christmas Party.
It was Christmas on the island of Sodor. All the engines were working hard. Thomas and Toby were busy carrying people and parcels up and down the branch lines. Everyone was happy. Only the coaches, Annie and Clarabel, were complaining.
It's always the same before Christmas. We feel so poor. We feel so poor.
Come on, girls. Where's your festive spirit? Christmas Day is almost here.
By the side of the track was a lonely cottage with a familiar figure waving to them.
Thomas!
It's Mrs. Kindly. Beep, beep. Happy Christmas!
Thomas always felt better for seeing her.
You know, Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without Mrs. Kindly.
When work was over, Thomas came to see the engines. All their coats had been polished.
Huh, just look at us. Your driver will have to work fast to get you as smart as us.
Never mind that, Gordon. I've something important to say. Do you realise it's been a whole year since Mrs. Kindly saved us from a nasty accident? You remember when she was ill in bed and...
Yes, of course. You told us how she waved her red dressing gown out of the window to warn you about a landslide ahead.
And you and Toby gave her presents. And the Fat Controller visited Bournemouth to get better.
But the rest of us have not thanked you properly.
Exactly, guys. So now I think we should all give her a special Christmas party.
Everyone was getting very excited, and the drivers felt sure that Sir Topham Hatt would agree, as indeed he did. The engines were all busy making plans when silence fell. Sir Topham Hatt had bad news.
The weather's changed badly. Mrs. Kindly is snowed up. Toby says he'll help to rescue her. You must help too, Thomas. There's no party unless you do.
Thomas hated snow, but he said bravely,
I'll try, sir. We must rescue her, we must.
There's a good engine. You and Toby will manage splendidly.
Take that, you silly soft stuff.
Thomas charged the snowdrifts fiercely. Sometimes he swept them aside, sometimes they stuck fast, and the workmen had to loosen it. But at the cutting near the cottage, they could go no further.
Look at that!
Beep, beep! Here we are, Mrs. Kindly.
An answering came from an upstairs
Toby,
window.
Thank goodness you're both here.
Then they heard a familiar sound.
It's Terence! He's come to help too!
Don't worry, Mrs. Kindly. I'll be sure to plow this snow out of your way.
Sure enough, Terence had a snowplow and was working hard to clear a patch to the railway line to safety. At long last, the rescue was complete. Percy took the tired workmen home.
Thank you dearly, Terence.
Terence said goodbye to Mrs. Kindly and promised to take care of her cottage as he watched them all set off. The engines made good time. No more snow had fallen, but the yard was dark, and there was no one to be seen.
Where is everyone?
Thomas's heart sank. Suddenly, all the lights went on.
Well,
What a marvelous sight awaited Mrs. Kindly.
Well done. I'm really proud of you all.
Thank you, sir. Just trying our best to rescue Mrs. Kindly.
Mrs. Kindly especially thanked the smaller engines.
Thomas and Toby are old friends. And now, Percy, you are my friend too.
Percy was very
I'm
pleased.
touched. 3 cheers for Mrs. Kindly!
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends thought it was the best Christmas ever, and Mrs. Kindly could think of nowhere she would rather live than here with them on the island of Sodor.